Congratulations, you've made it. This is like section 6 of your Jesus Basics, and we're talking about communion and how it connects us. Now, what you're going to do is something very unique. There are so many things that followers of Jesus do in the 21st century that have nothing to do with what followers of Jesus did in the first century. They didn't worship in churches like we have. They didn't have any of the rituals around us that we practice, but they did have communion. They didn't call it communion, they called it the love feast, because they believed that it connected them to each other in Jesus and to the Spirit of God, because it reminded them of all that He had done for them. Now, in front of you, in this living room, you've got bread and you've got wine. The bread, Jesus, it says, in fact, in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, that Paul, decades after Jesus did it, did the same thing. He took bread and he said just what Jesus said. He said, "This bread is my body broken for you." And then he took a glass of wine and he said, "This wine is my blood spilt for you for the redemption of sins." Now, you're going to do that together in the living room. I want you to know there's something cool about the living room. More people around the world have communion together in environments like you're doing right now, or environments like where I'm at right now, outside, than do in churches with steeples. Because the secret church, the underground church, they're doing stuff like this all the time, and they don't have opulent environments to do it in. In some cultures, they do it under a tree. In some cultures, they do it out in a field. In lots of home churches, underground churches throughout Asia and the Middle East, they do it in the dark of night in somebody's home with all the lights out. I have an Indian friend who can't have juice, but he has coconut milk. I have a friend in Laos that doesn't have either, so he uses water. Now, these elements, they're important. The bread reminds us of what Jesus wasn't. He wasn't like you. He wasn't a sinner. He wasn't full of corruption. So when you take that bread, you're reminding yourself, Jesus wasn't like me. He was better. He was different. He could take away my mistakes. And then you'll take the cup and you'll be reminded of what Jesus was. He was sweet. He was gracious. He was loving. He was forgiving. One to remind you what He wasn't. One to remind you what He was and what He is. He's still gracious. He's still loving. He's still forgiving. Now, you're going to do this together in just a second. But I want you to know, this is your last session together. It's important that you take the time together to really have the love feast. Not a ritual, not a dead ritual. Connect with each other. Connect with Him. If you have the courage, I'm going to ask that you go around the circle and find the person who is the newest follower of Jesus and let them lead. Because we like to celebrate this idea that everybody who walks with Jesus is a part of the family, and the newest member is as capable as the most experienced member. What he wasn't, what he is, and what we are together. Bless this time. Thank you for being with us. Enjoy the communion. Enjoy the connecting now.